Well, I know I'm late to the CitizenCon hype train here, but I did attend. It was my first CitizenCon, and I had a spectacular time. Before I get into the rest of this, I just wanted to say thank you to Space Tomatoes Org, the Garden Interstellar Initiative. Those guys are super nice, and they kept me alive the entire weekend. So thank you. And to anyone else that I met, and I met a bunch of you, including some of the developers, it was awesome meeting you guys. I mean, everyone knows who's been around the block a little bit. Star Citizen's kind of like being in an abusive relationship. So the community is one of those things that really keeps me coming back, and I'm sure a lot of other people coming back. In spite of what you might see on Discord or Reddit or Spectrum, it really isn't as toxic as it may appear. And out of 4,200 something people there, everybody seemed to get along, and that's what it's really all about, and that's what it comes down to. So in this video, I'm just going to touch on a few things that stood out to me that apply to the gameplay that interests me in particular. Obviously, if you've ever come to this channel before, number one, you know I'm a horrible video editor, and number two, you know that I pretty much only do player beacons, rescue beacons, personal transport beacons, that sort of thing. I like helping players in the verse. I like being involved temporarily in whatever gameplay they're doing. You know, when I do show up to help them out, it is super fun for me. So first thing I want to touch on is the weather and environments. Holy crap, this is awesome. I know one of the big things with Star Citizen is the potential of the game. And yes, the copium and the hopium and all the PMs, I get it. But if they can dial this in, the potential for weather affecting things as it does now. You know, we already have blinding snowstorms and insane wind. You guys remember when there was wind inside of the hangars? That was neat. We could do without that though. But I've done plenty of beacons where people's ships have gotten blown over and you need to nudge them back over, or they get stuck up in the air and you have to drop them off on top. And it's just that organic emergent gameplay that I'm always chasing, and what beacons and all that stuff tend to provide. So having advanced weather features and interactions is definitely something that I think will enhance that sort of emergency response necessity. Oh crap, my ship blew 50 yards down the road and off a cliff. You know, can someone come bring me over there? You know, that sort of thing. And that ties into, you know, what they mentioned in this is the gathering rainwater and puddles forming and all that stuff. Well, if that has a life of its own, if that has some sort of tangible properties to it, I think, especially in this next little video I'm going to have, I mean, what are we looking at? Are we looking at the potential for natural disasters? Are we looking at the potential for, you know, humanitarian aid missions? Something that could be a dynamic event without being a dynamic event, something that's informed by what they call Genesis data, their new I don't know, Mother Nature version of Star Citizen. You know, part of their engine features where you have realistic soil and bedrock and you know, composition of the ground and all this stuff. And all that informs weather and climate. And if, I don't know how deep they're going to go, or, you know, when this will come out. Obviously, it could be 50 years from now, but hopefully, I mean, look, you're going to see lightning strike a ship. That's pretty amazing. I mean, that's how you create emergent gameplay. You know, it's not these planned things. It's spontaneous weather based on, you know, a culmination of conditions. So more to that point is, you know, you see this guy now walking through here, objects, you know, move out of the way when the character hits them, but flooded bases, flooded settlements, outposts, you know, where your mission is to go render aid and evacuate people. Or search and rescue, you need to find, you know, X number of people or whatever the case may be, right? That would be awesome, you know. And this was from Invictus a long time ago. You know, they already have in-game lore about ships and the UE providing humanitarian aid, so it's just one of those things that's always in the back of my mind when these guys go to make missions based on all the stuff in the game. What cool things can they come up with that are dynamic? I always thought they had a good opportunity to use this. I don't know how this would have worked, given how fast Portolus are, rest in peace, is decaying in orbit. But can you imagine a dynamic event where you have to try to land on this thing and rescue as many people or NPCs as possible and given time limit before this thing, eats shit into Orison? It's just stuff like that that you hope they keep in the back of their mind, especially if you're a player oriented to the type of gameplay that I've been describing here. I mean, that's the chef's kiss if we can get stuff like that. So moving on into blocking and enforcement, they're finally introducing a block list, which should hopefully prevent people. Listen, everybody gets one. You have a bad experience with somebody, maybe they had a bad day, maybe they messed up, maybe their sibling took the mouse and shot you in the face, and they didn't intend that, but you get to block people now, and hopefully that extends to sending out beacons. So not only do you rely on what's coming next in this video, but you get to say, hey, I don't want this person to see any more of my mission requests, and we'll see how that works. And obviously the most important thing is beacons. They introduced guide beacons, which is a phenomenal idea because Star Citizen has a steep learning curve, and I'm not the best gamer, but I really want the steep learning curve to remain. I think it discourages people who aren't truly prepared for the Star Citizen or interested in the Star Citizen experience, a lot of what you all originally backed for. So I'm glad they have the guide system in the game so you can show people right there, right then, instead of doing that weird website thing. And then the major thing for me, and everybody who I was sitting with turned around, they're like, look at it, it's beacons. I am super stoked about this. People for the longest time since beacons appeared said, oh, they're all traps, they're boring, they're this or that. You can be bored, that's allowed. And you can say people take forever, which they do. Now, if you've been on this channel before, you know I have a ridiculous spreadsheet where I have tracked since 3.18.2 every single beacon I've responded to, whether it's Metassist, Rescue, whatever. And I have said whether it's a trap. And I really wish I had started keeping that spreadsheet when I first started doing beacons in 3.16 or just before 3.17, because it would show that 2,000 plus beacon responses, and I've only been attacked a handful of times, literal handful on one hand. And I have made all of this, including the YouTube channel you're watching this video on right now, to try to encourage people to use the beacon system when appropriate, when they need it, because that creates the gameplay that myself and plenty of other people in Star Citizen enjoy. And if you have this constant idea that this mechanic is only going to lead to you getting shot in the face or having your stuff stolen, you're going to be less inclined to use it. Now, does that mean this isn't an extremely welcome update? Absolutely. And I hope this is more than just a UI mockup. I hope, here it is, that this comes out within the next year, because I don't see anything bad about this. I don't see anything else that I would do other than this. You get to rate everybody. It has a leaderboard, and therefore you pick the people who are the fastest, who drop what they're doing like myself and just blast out in the fastest ship appropriate for whatever they're doing. And speaking of fastest ship, finally there are other beacons besides medical related ones or transport related ones. We're getting fuel beacons, long overdue. Hopefully we get towing beacons. These are things that allow players to request specific help from players specializing in different things with specialty ships, and I think that's very important and long overdue. Moving on from that, I'm super glad that they came out with this system, or are coming out with this system, because it is a welcome breath of fresh air and something that I think will finally fully validate the use of beacons, since you can see who's going to take forever and you can see who is going to, potentially shoot you in the face. And you can block those people, or even put on that hostile kill on sight list for orgs that may want to farm those sorts of contracts, if that's a possibility. But in conclusion here, again, if you have a chance to go to CitizenCon, I highly recommend it. I will be going next year, wherever it is, in either Austin or Montreal if I'm able to. It was a spectacular experience, and being around everybody who's so into this thing is a truly rewarding experience. And also there was beer and plenty of laughs. So I'll see you there.